Everyone, Dalton Yu here, and today we're doing a Levy Wand review on the Pyroterra Lighttoys Visual Wand. Whenever you first get this wand in the mail, it's going to come in a package that looks quite a bit like this. Now, as you can see, it comes in a very nice case to carry your wand and to keep all your stuff safe. Let's go ahead and take a look at the inside. We get a Phoenix Fire Convention card, which is pretty cool. I'd love to go there. We'll see what happens in the future. We also have lots of buttons, stickers, business cards, all the usual swag that you get with any product. In the two pockets on the front of the case, we have our string replacement and weights, a remote. And then on the other pocket, we have our charger and charging cable. Now, as you can see, this is a micro USB cable because the Levy Wand supports micro USB connectivity and charging. And once again, I do just want to say, look how nice this case is. It's really cool to have a case like this for a Levy Wand. A tool like this stored in here, it's going to keep it nice and safe. Here's our Lighttoys Levy Wand. On first inspection, we notice how hard this is. This is plexiglass tubing, so it's not going to be able to bend or break in any way. They put a lot of effort into this circuit board to design these small gaps that sort of act as a relief or a shock absorber for whenever you do happen to introduce some sort of bend to the wand. What that does is it essentially limits or almost entirely cuts out any sort of shorts in the circuit, which we have seen as a problem in a lot of smart LED wands in the past. We have our flush mounted power button. We have our micro USB slot. We have two end caps, which for me came on there, but I'm sure in some cases they'll come as an accessory in the package. So let's talk about some of the features of this wand. First and foremost, this wand works with what's called persistence of vision technology. What essentially happens there is as the wand moves through the air, certain LEDs flash to create a floating image in the air. The visual wand has 200 LEDs per side. Now that means that not only are the pictures incredibly dense and high resolution, these LEDs are also incredibly bright, 20% brighter than the V3, V2, and V1 generations of visual poi. The colors are incredibly accurate and really juicy.
There is one LED missing from the 200 LED strip to allow for the string to thread through the board. It is noticeable in long exposure photos, for instance. However, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily distracting, and it's definitely not noticeable whenever you spin with it in real life.
These LEDs have a 180-degree viewing angle. What that essentially means is that since we have LEDs on both sides of the wand, we get a full 360 degrees of light, which is really awesome for a lot of wands, especially since in the smart LED realm, we have single strip LEDs that don't have 180-degree viewing angles, so you can only see the patterns from a certain angle. Now, what that also means is that with 400 LEDs being powered by a single battery, you're not going to get a whole lot of battery life, especially at this point in time. This battery can actually power the wand for an average of about 40 minutes. Now that can change depending on what patterns you use. Say if you use more whites, you're going to use battery power faster. But if you have more off LEDs, for instance, strobing patterns or more centered patterns, you're going to get a little bit longer battery life, but in average it's about centered on 40 minutes. Now that's not all bad, because one way that I figured out how to sort of cope with the short battery life is to actually buy a power bank. Now what those are is essentially just stores power in a small bank. And what you can do is you can put it in your quiver, and whenever you're not using the wand, you can actually just connect it to the power bank and charge it on the go. So we have 200 LEDs going from top to bottom here, and that's going to be a 21-inch display on about a 25-inch stick. Now that is a little shorter than most people are used to. We're used to 26 inches or 28 inches. However, I feel like I kind of prefer that because it allows me more access to negative space, like under the arm or under the leg. And I would kind of like to see Levy wands move more in that direction in the future. But that's just my preference. So this wand actually weighs in at 6.2 ounces. That is lighter than the Astral wand. However, it is heavier than the Future wand. Now, one really awesome thing about this weight is that it actually allows us to use the included Flotoys Flow Wand string with it rather than a thicker string like Shadow Cord. Now, not only does that make it more invisible, make the magic trick more illusion-y, that's a word, it also means that the string will slide more easily through the tubing. causing it not to get thrown off by any sudden direction changes. And that's actually a big deal with this wand because, as you'll notice, it's about an inch thick tubing. So what that means is that whenever we are tugging on it to change directions, it has a more likely chance of being tugged off balance if the string catches, simply because there's more thickness here for it to catch on. Testing the balance of this wand, usually what we want is we want it to come up fully in about 1 second. As you can see, one Mississippi. It comes out in just about 1 second, which is really great. The other thing that we also want to test is the angle at which it hangs. Usually we don't want it to hang too far down. And there are some people that say they also don't want it to hang too far up. They want it to be about 30 degrees. I, however, don't fully agree with that because I want my levy wand to be as vertical as possible, as long as it's not hitting the string. And this levy wand, seen here, it accomplishes that goal. So, in my opinion, it has really great balance right out of the box. On top of that, they do ship it with washers so that you can edit the balance yourself. Now, the remote for the visual wand actually holds what they call FT chip technology. It has a range of about 200 meters, which is really great for a lot of remotes out there, especially when compared to infrared remotes or the radio remotes. So it's really a nice setup they have going here. Some of the downsides to having the wand programmed this way is you can't control different props individually through the remote. It only lets you control all of them at the same time. Another sort of downside to it is that since it works on sequence-based programming rather than per pattern programming, you can't really move forward, backward, or pause your patterns. And you can only sort of move through these sequences as you've programmed previously. With that being said, it does have some colored patterns that are really nice, especially the dots pattern. I really like it because it sort of makes this strobe effect that looks really nice and artistic for me. And it has 9 color options for you to choose from. Powering on the visual wand is really as simple as just holding down the power button until we see this. We hold down the power button again until we get our 4 sequences, pink, blue, green, and orange. We can tap the power button to move through our menu of the 4 different sequences. And whenever we decide which one we'd like to use, we can either hold down for 2 seconds on the power button, or we can use our remote. Then we get to this, and we tap the power button one more time to make the sequence appear. At this point, the sequence is auto-playing through, and they have implemented a kind of unique feature where if we hold this down, say it happened during a performance and we didn't want it to, it actually comes right back on. The way for us to actually stop the sequence is to hold it down until we see the battery indicator light at the bottom flash, meaning that it's off. Looking at the remote, we have a whole bunch of different options on here. First, we power it on by holding down the power button. We have our pair option, is a process to get through, but they do have instructions telling you how to get through it, and it's relatively simple once you read the instructions. From there, I'm going to power on the wand so that I can show you guys what it's going to do. From here, we can press any of our color buttons to make it go to the color mode of red, orange, yellow. We have 10 color buttons actually. And then if we say want one of the colors to have a certain effect, we can use any of these 5 effects: dots, strobe, pulse, fade, and flash to make the wand do what we want. Now, a really cool, unique feature of this is once again with the FT chip technology, notice how the remote is not even pointing at the prop right here, yet it still works perfectly fine. This is due to how the FT chip technology works, and it's really great because it extends so far and has such a wide interacting area. Now, down here we have our 4 sequence buttons. We can press any one of them for it to go through the sequence. However, like I said before, there's no way to actually stop it on a single pattern or go forward or backward in the sequence. You really just have to program it the way you want it to work. And then to stop any sequence at any point, we just hold down the power button on the remote and it goes back to the color option that we had selected before. Whenever I press the AB button, one portion of the wand will flash, meaning that I've selected that part, and I can change the color mode of just that part. Then I can press the AB again, Notice how that only this flashed, and I can go in and individually change that. Then if I press AB one more time, I can change the color of the whole wand. And then we can go back to our sequences or turn it off. Now lastly, we do have a really helpful battery indicator. Like I said, the battery life is about 40 minutes, so it's really good to keep up with how your battery is doing during your performances or after your performances, especially if you're wandering around, say, a festival or something of the like. So whenever I hold down this power button, what you'll see is you'll see a flash down here, and notice how it was green. That light will either be green, orange, or red, and that will tell you how well your battery is doing at this point in time. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Lighttoys Composer app for the Visual Wand. So essentially whenever you open up the app, the first thing you're going to see is this timeline editing layout, to where essentially it's like video editing or any sort of nonlinear editing system, to where you can grab any of these patterns and simply drag and drop them, pull over, and click. And essentially what happens here is I get this pattern for this long, which just happens to be 21 seconds, and it looks like 5 milliseconds. So here we can actually look at the animated pattern, but since it's a levy wand, what it's going to look more like is dynamic, right? So we're going to see something like this. Now, of course, this is not what it's going to look like whenever the levy wand is moving. So I've heard that they're actually going to update this software so that it has some sort of linear moving animation so that we can actually tell what it looks like with the visual wand. But for now, I'm just going to stick with this because that's a pretty accurate depiction of what the pattern's going to look like anyways. So the app is packed with tons of features. First, it can actually automatically sense what device is plugged into it. If I go up here and hit V4 Maxi, it will say what mode it is as well as how many pixels are on the prop itself. Over here we have a scale option which can automatically change the scale of the pattern, whether it be closer together or further apart. And then the spacing option, which will actually change how much space there is in between each iteration of the pattern itself. Up here we can import images, we can select our folder library, and then we can also actually save our projects so that we can come back to them later. All of this happens, and then we essentially just upload sequence, and we select our sequence on our wand. Another really cool thing about this wand are actually the service and shipping options available through Pyroterra Lighttoys. Whenever I ordered this wand, I was like a Wednesday, and I had the wand at my doorstep by a Friday. Now, that might not be standard, but the fact that it's an option might be really helpful for a lot of us, especially if we're trying to get the wand in time for a specific gig. Another thing that's also really helpful is that there is a repair person located in the US, so you don't have to have extremely long shipping times back and forth to be able to have your prop repaired, especially if it's urgent. Now, this does come at a price. This wand will run you about $960. However, it is sort of seen as the Ferrari of the smart LED levy wand world right now. It has the absolute best technology available, it has great service, and it comes with a really neat package. To be fair, this wand is worth it, and it's really so worth it that I kind of bought a second one. So I'm a supporter, and I think it's a really great, not only piece of technology, but a great contribution to everything that we know as levy wand right now. It's essentially giving a lot of us an option that hasn't been there before, especially with a lot of poi and hoop companies that have sort of used levy wand to just extend their technology rather than giving it the attention it fully deserves. Alright, so that's it. That's everything about the Pyroterra Lighttoys Levy Wand. If you enjoyed this review, go ahead and hit the like or subscribe button, especially if you want some more content or videos of me using it. Thanks everyone!